This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average Gamer here, and today a warning about Burnice. Now before we go too deep, I've already been clear that I'm going to pull Burnice, but if you are a fellow free-to-play or low-spend player, as cool as she is, or hot I guess, you should consider the points that I'm going to make in this video before you commit to our Pyromaniac gal. My last video was pretty high on Burnice, but I just want to measure some of that expectation before we actually get into her banner. I'll leave that video which runs through her kit at the end of this one if you didn't catch it. Anyway, to start, let's go through why you shouldn't be considering Burnice, and then I'll dive into why I'm still going to pull for her. So Burnice is an off-field anomaly character, which sounds great on paper. Off-field damage, that's just free, so yeah, sure. Plus, then you will cause disorders, which will be large chunks of additional damage. But in order to make the most out of this, you'll want someone else on field also causing anomalies, like Jane or Piper or maybe Yanagi. So if you haven't been enamored with the anomaly and disorder playstyle up till now, then Burnice is likely not going to change your mind. Because functionally, it's still going to feel like a Jane team, because you'll still be on-fielding someone else for the bulk of your encounters. Burnice is going to enable those teams to do more damage in most circumstances, but if you don't really enjoy playing Piper, for example, Burnice isn't going to save that team for you, as you'll still be using your Piper. Like a lot. Plus, I noticed during the trial that in order to hit the higher disorder numbers, you really need to be paying attention to the anomaly bar and causing anomalies close together. So there's quite a bit more thought involved and less random stuff go. My next point requires some context. So as we look back at different characters, you'll note that some of them run next to other characters that benefit the initial character massively. For example, we got Cake Yuan in patch 1.0, and the very next character was Qingyi, which is a character that benefits Ju Yuan quite a chunk in terms of her damage output. Then we had Jane, and then Caesar, and Caesar kind of works great with everyone. So if you got Jane, you would likely have thought about getting Caesar, considering her big attack buff. And then looking forwards, if you got Caesar, you should also consider Burnice, because that attack buff helps to scale up Burnice's off-field damage and her disorder damage. In case it wasn't obvious, this is in fact by design. Now, as much as I enjoy the game, the reason these characters are run so close together is so that they can push players into spending money on getting all these characters, because the synergy between them is really good. Now, when it comes to the character following Burnice, I believe that Yanagi is going to work extremely well with Burnice. Why exactly? Well, if we consider disorder for a moment, the damage over time disorders are the ones that cause the most damage, because they also add the damage that should have been done over the time lost when the disorder activates. So although Burnice would combine well with pretty much any anomaly agent, she'll combine best with other agents that can cause large disorders, i.e. other electric or ether anomaly agents, because another fire agent just would cause more fire. So with that said, yeah, I wonder why she's running next to an electric anomaly agent. I wonder if they'll work well together. Now apparently my deadpan voice and delivery doesn't help me when I'm being sarcastic, so I'll just spell it out. I think that Burnice is going to work really well with Yanagi, and that's why they're running next to each other. So what's a poor free-to-play or low-spend player to do? Well, you just kind of have to commit to the character that you want and be okay with the fact that you might not be able to get the best character to go with them. Now, if you've been saving to guarantee Burnice, there's a chance that you may be able to get both Burnice and Yanagi, but it would involve winning two 50-50s with a modest amount saved, so it does seem pretty unlikely, and most players at goldfish status or below won't be able to get both, and they have to be okay with that. You can always wait for reruns. These characters will eventually come back around, and if they don't for a while, you may actually find a different character that does a similar or better job. Before we move on to why I'm still going to pull for Burnice, this is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Consider liking and subscribing, because it really helps to support small creators like me. Thank you all so much for the support so far. You are very handsome and or pretty. So let's circle back around to why I still want to get Burnice, and it's not just her ult animation. Although, so where were we? Right, back on topic, not Burnice's ult, and why are we still getting Burnice? Let's go. So firstly, I do like the way my anomaly team plays, and for me, it actually unlocks further anomaly compositions, as I got lucky enough to get Grace, so I could run Burnice with Grace and some support in one team and Jane on the other if I wanted to go for a full anomaly setup. Moving forwards too, her value as an off-field damage dealer is huge. Not only is it going to be great right now, but as we get deeper into the game and see more anomaly agents and supports, if any of them buff fire or disorder, they will work incredibly well with Burnice. As I've mentioned in other videos though, if you as a player don't really have a team in mind for Burnice and don't have other anomaly agents to run with her, you shouldn't pull for her future potential, as you should pull a character that helps your account right now. And if you don't have much in the way of anomaly, then that would mean that you should probably pull Caesar before her banner ends, as she's more universally useful. Burnice isn't designed to be an on-field carry character, and she might be able to carry a less than stellar team from off-field, but you'll still want to have thought about some synergies in order to make the most of her. Now, to address the fact that I likely won't be able to get Yanagi as well as Burnice, now the smart thing to do, as I've said in my prior video about Burnice, would be to wait until we have confirmed kit details on Yanagi so that way you can make informed decisions, and that's what most players should do. However, that said, the amount of value and team options that Burnice unlocks right now still feels great to me, and this is without me opening up the waifu over meta discussion again. Now, what's kind of great about the game right now is that firstly we got to play as Burnice as part of the Chapter 4 story. Now Burnice is also featured as a trial character in the bootcamp event trials, meaning that you can mix her with your existing teams to try different things out. Now you won't get any in-game benefits from going back and running different teams on these disorder trials, but if you aren't sure if your existing teams will work well with Burnice, then do consider running some variations of teams that you're considering here. You can try out with Piper or Grace or Jane or anyone really to see how you feel about those team comps. Now do bear in mind though that disorder damage is boosted significantly in the event because the game wants you to feel that disorders hit harder than they actually do to try and sell you on Burnice a little more. So you'll need to half the damage amounts for the disorders that you see to get a more realistic representation of how much damage you'll be likely to do. But I would say from looking at the stats for Burnice at level 60 during the trials, she could be better built if you'd have built her yourself, so also bear that in mind. So that is why Burnice could be bait depending on the state of your account. If you're not already well prepared for Anomaly, she will feel lackluster. If you've been running traditional crit teams with Ellen and Ju Yuan, for example, up till now, and haven't got lucky enough to get a Piper and you skip Jane, Burnice may not be for you, unless you've got enough stashed away to also get Yanagi. And when Yanagi comes, I would expect a lot of people that pulled Burnice will also want to pull for Yanagi. And by the time that Yanagi comes, we will also have had 3 out of the last 4 agents being Anomaly characters. And Jane works okay with Burnice, so I think that Yanagi is probably going to be the character that makes Burnice really shine. This isn't to say though that Burnice isn't going to work well with Piper and Lucy. She can be run an extremely free-to-play way there. Your damage output will just be a little lower, and she will be able to essentially carry that team from off-field, and I imagine you won't really struggle with Shiyu with that team. That is to say that as long as you don't want to be a super sweaty meta player, you're probably going to be just fine as long as you've thought about your teams a little bit. So this is it then, fam. You've been warned. This is not me saying that you should or should not get Burnice. I think I went into my last video on her feeling quite positive, but as time goes on and we get closer to her release, I just want to do a solid to the free-to-play and low-spend audience and say that if you haven't already been building up Anomaly or Fire, or you plan to do so in the future, then you may want to hold off on Burnice for now. Not because she isn't going to be great, but more so that unlike a Caesar or a Jane that could in theory carry you through the harder content, even if not built particularly well, Burnice needs a bit of a team and some planning around how you're going to use her. Lastly then, I said I wasn't going to open up the waifu conversation, so I'll just keep this short, but if you really like a character, it's okay to just ignore everything that I've just said and just pull for them anyway, especially if you're not bothered about clearing the harder content, which hasn't really got to a point where it's particularly hard yet. But if you did pull for Burnice, then when you plan to pull for future characters, consider how they might enable Burnice to do her best work. Now, if you're interested, you can watch another of my videos. It should pop up now, along with the original kit video around Burnice. I'm off now to farm discs for Burnice, because why not? Remember to pull responsibly and like and subscribe for better than average luck on your pulls. Also join Discord and stay weird, dudes. Bye, bye, bye.